To all the cannabis science listeners, the following episodes, we're going to be trying a few new things. Not too experimental, but we'd love to hear what you think. Send us a message and let us know. Welcome to the Cannabis Science Podcast, a podcast dedicated entirely to discussing the science of cannabis from an industry insider's perspective. I'm Dr. Ricardo Rivera, and with me here in the studio is Dr. Macarena Catallo and Kemet Segan, our prosumer and resident musician and Renaissance man.
Howdy.
And today we're going to talk about something that, as animal lovers ourselves, we are very interested in knowing more about. And I've been very interested in knowing more about, which is veterinarian use of cannabis, or cannabis for veterinary use.
Are we gonna get my puppy stoned?
Hopefully not.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I don't want her freaking out.
And we're going to talk about that, why that's not a good idea. Not that cannabis isn't good for animals, but definitely not to get them high.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Respect.
All right. There isn't a lot of, this is an interesting topic, right? Because there isn't a huge body of scientific information here for us to glean from. There is some preliminary studies. There's obviously a lot of animal work, like for example, with mice and rats. And then there's human sort of extrapolations for animals, right? But today we're going to be talking about a little bit more from the vet perspective, right? We're going to be looking at these studies that were done that surveyed vets, veterinary students and practicing vets on their attitudes concerning cannabis use therapeutically for animals, and then canine use of cannabinoids.
Specifically
right?
for the doggos.
Yes. Because dogs, generally, if you're on a farm, you have a lot of different animals, and, you're likely going to do different things to them. But dogs tend to be not only the most like us, or that at least we can identify the most with, right? But then they're our closest companions. So we're oftentimes more interested in especially when they feel ill, to try to help them out as much as we can, right?
True.
And again, we say that as dog lovers, animal lovers ourselves. We're all here. We all here have dogs. We love dogs. We would never harm any animal. And so our interest is really to help spread more awareness of how cannabis could or could not help our, furry friends, right?
Ooh.
So we already know that cannabis is increasingly recognized for its therapeutic value in human medicine, right? That is proven more and more, every single episode, every single day, like new studies come out. But although most veterinary research data really has been exploring cannabis toxicity, there really is also some interest for the potential therapeutic value of cannabis in veterinary medicine, right? Especially with this recent legalization of cannabis for recreational use in Canada. It's really opened doors for, the need for vets and veterinary students to be in a position to help address, for example, client questions and concerns on these topics. So there was this study done at the University of Guelph, the Ontario Veterinary College in Guelph. And Guelph is a place, actually, it's a small town in Ontario, maybe a small city in Ontario, but they've done a lot of really cool cannabis studies there.
Shouts out Guelph.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Guelph. They've really done some cool stuff. I like a lot of the work that's coming out of there.
I know some people from Guelph.
Yeah.
It's a fun name too. Guelph.
Yeah,
I like it. They kind of have, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people that I know from Guelph really want to leave Guelph, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe they're in BC for a reason.
Suburban Canada, eh?
So regardless, though, I mean, this is the first section we're talking about animals overall, right? How does cannabis, how do vets view the use of cannabis for all animals, but in particular, smaller animals, obviously, like, cats, dogs, etc. And it's interesting because the study, it's not that it's a small study. I mean, there was about 400 or 500 students or individuals that answered the survey. And out of most of these, about the majority, 53%, thought that there definitely is a therapeutic value for cannabis.
Oh, wow.
So most of the people here think that, yeah, there is something there. Now, about 38% were unsure, and then a smaller number thought that definitely not. like about 7.7%. Thought definitely not. And there's reasons for this, right? The main reasons for that people believe that could be useful is that there's evidence suggesting therapeutic value in humans. And for good or bad, we typically test drugs that are going to be valuable in humans and animals first, right? To gain the knowledge necessary to then, not kill humans when we're giving them these medications when we're trying them out. Sadly, again, I don't have to say, it's not that it's a good or bad. I'm a scientist and I understand, like, I'm a scientist and I'm all over it. Like, I'm happy I'm not involved in direct animal testing, but I do also see the value in it. And when you have this ethical question as, do you do harm to a person when you're trying to save them? Would you hurt them if you're trying to save them, or would you hurt an animal? Or, you're not really trying to hurt the animal, but you're trying to find out the most of these compounds before you give them to humans. So it's like this difficult ethical question, which I won't get into.
But Ricardo, you were saying once that in general these studies cannot relate very well with humans after. So at the end is a waste of time because you're trying in a mice.
It's not a huge, okay. There are lots of studies definitely that do not translate to humans at all. The people get tons of PhDs on mice pretty much, right? On the effects of something on mice. Now, that's not to say that for a conventional drug that we have right now that's helping you or me, that animal testing isn't useful. That's not true. It definitely is 100%. Now, that again doesn't mean that every single study that's being done on animals is valuable. No. That's why it's important then to have a solid foundation in terms of what you're trying to get and what you're trying to do with the animal, and limit as much as possible any suffering to an animal as you can.
Good. I mean, I have been learning from you, Ricardo. I'm not a pharmacologist, but the other thing that you were explaining me, how the genetics play an important role in these things. So hopefully we can get at the level that science can determine this kind of thing just using genetics and not using any animal.
Oh, wow.
There may be a point, yes, where we may be able to actually model, and in fact, not just use genetics, but model the properties of compounds in silico. That means like in a chip, right? In a computer. Yeah.
What?
Hopefully we'll get there to some point, but we're not there yet.
Are we just going to be made in computers in the future?
What?
Are we just going to be in computers in the future?
We may have our consciousness in a computer.
Oh, man.
Maybe we already have
crazy
it.
stuff. I mean,
man, I smoked too much this morning.
No, dude, like,
whoa, bro.
What's that movie? Battle Angel Alita. Just like poof. And that's just like in the lower level of like blowing your mind. There's some interesting stuff that's being explored there. I mean, like Black Mirror stuff, right? But again, going back to this, we do love our animals. A lot of us, despite much of the world treating animals maybe in a sort of dismissive way, there are a lot of people that do love animals, and vets are there to help. Vets are the physician equivalent of, for animals, essentially. And so it's important for them to be as up to date and knowledgeable about what's available to help our, again, our furry friends as much as possible. And it seems like there's more and more information that's coming out, and it's not like I think maybe they're being trained a little bit better than physicians right now in terms of cannabis use and applications in a veterinary setting. But there definitely is the fact. Look, animals don't like to get high. Let's just put that out there.
Really, just straight
How
up?
do you know?
Animals don't like to get high.
Did you ask?
Did you ask?
Yeah, I bet like a koala is like already eating eucalyptus. Why not add a joint in?
There have been lots of studies. I mean, again, I don't want to get into too much, but there have been lots of studies to show that animals do not like to have their perspectives or what happens when an animal gets high? Let's put it this way. Let's see when a mouse is having a different perspective or a different mindset. It's not even a different mindset. It's just like they're compromised, right? What happens?
Probably poop themselves and they get stressed out, high cortisol.
Or get eaten.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, because you can't you're not aware of the predator around you.
You don't know what's happening. You can get hurt. You can get eaten. It's dangerous for an animal to not be, 100% there. I mean, they can sleep, they can rest. When they get sick, they do the best they can. But this is the reason why a lot of animals don't show pain, right? When your dog is hurt, he's avoiding as much as he can showing pain, because that's a sign of weakness, right?
Whoa.
So animals
Deep.
don't like to get high.
But I can totally imagine like a dolphin on acid.
Well, a dolphin, I mean,
Like those, and they have like higher level,
I can't
like,
imagine,
you know,
I can't imagine.
or like
dolphin on
elephants.
acid.
I feel like they're super smart. Maybe they'd be like have some spiritual experience.
So I don't know. It's
I don't
different.
know.
It's different for primates. It seems like primates, again, not that they like to get high, but ethanol, for example, when a fruit ferments in nature, various animals go towards that fruit and eat it, and they get drunk. And I mean, this has been documented, right? But there's a difference between being drunk and being high, or being compromised in a different way. So it's a little bit complicated.
Interesting.
But mice like opioids.
They like cocaine.
No, it's a different. That's a completely different mechanism. And again, I don't want to dwell too much on this.
Okay.
But the fact is that animals really don't like to get high.
That makes sense overall. Actually, we're just being silly.
So that's one of the issues that some vets have with giving cannabis, products to animals, right? It's that you don't want to incur a unfavorable reaction to that product, undesirable reaction to that product. Now, vets also know that there definitely is a difference between THC and CBD, right? Mm-hmm. These two major constituents found in cannabis, and that this interplay, especially the ratio and the presence of different, cannabinoid constituents, do affect the therapeutic properties of the product. So this is also the case likely in animals. Now, we don't have a lot of additional research. In fact, the thing is, it's funny because a lot of the work that's being done with regards to like the effects of cannabis in humans is done on animals, right? Like on mainly rats and mice. And we've done a lot of that work in rats and mice. And we've seen like the therapeutic benefits of, for example, analgesia, lowering body temperature, anti-emetic properties or anti-vomiting properties, this and that. But it's one thing to give that to the animals and to the mice, and it's another thing to give it to higher order animals like dogs, cats, bulls, horses,
octopus.
Octopi are interesting. They're very interesting.
Pretty smart.
They're really, really smart, and they are. Oh man, the stuff you give to you can get a bunch of fish really not even drunk, like anesthetized. If you put like sevoflurane or like these volatile anesthetics or these different constituents actually in a aquarium, you can get all these fish really drunk or really stoned.
They start swimming like all like lopsided.
They start swimming all weird. Yes, they start swimming all weird and do all sorts of weird stuff.
So don't do this to your beta fish at home.
No, don't do that. So what are the main barriers for use though? Going back to the topic of veterinary applications of cannabis, the main barriers are the potential for toxicity, and then the stigma associated with cannabis products, right? Because despite legalization in a lot of places around the world, including Canada, it's still somewhat stigmatized. But then additional to that, we don't know oftentimes what's the proper dose to give of a cannabis product to an animal, especially to a dog, depending upon the weight or depending upon what, right?
Like if I need a whole joint and my dog's 2 pounds, it probably only needs like 1 puff.
Exactly. What does your little doggy need, right? So that's another issue. And you give just a little bit too much and the dog will be very ill.
Be throwing up all over your carpet.
Those of you that have given by accident, of course, your animals cannabis know what that's like, right? They're not happy. They're not happy little
coming out of both ends.
Oh man. And especially if they're like edibles, please be careful with your edibles. So lastly, with regards to this Canadian study, the issue really lies in that there is a significant lack of evidence regarding the safety and efficacy of cannabis in animals, in higher order animals, dogs, cats, mooses, reindeer,
antelope,
all that stuff, right? Like there really isn't a large scientific body of literature on
this. You should try with the Canadian goose.
Yo, no, those things are already so volatile. I don't want to get them even. Maybe I'll chill them out. I don't know.
Maybe they should like pepper. They're eating all over the grass. Just like pepper it with cannabis. Like see what happens. No, but then the little geese will eat it. I don't want.
Little geeslings are stoned as well.
Oh man. So that's really what's limiting them. But that's why I think it's important. And again, a lot of what's being documented now, a lot of what's happening now in the veterinary space for like products, for example, CBD products, this and that, are conjecture. A lot of it is conjecture because it works in humans. So we think, okay, it should work in dogs. Because dogs and humans, we share a lot of the same illnesses and all the same conditions.
And we're best friends.
And we're best friends. We share like anxiety, we share depression, we share a lot of the mental instabilities that we get, cancers.
Dogs get social anxiety?
Dementia.
That's wild.
Dogs share a surprisingly large amount of comorbidity, I would say.
You could feel that. Wild.
And I'm not sure, again, it's likely something that happens more in nature than we think, but because we're so close to dogs, and in particular dogs, like we're close to cats as well, but we have this, very interesting codependency with dogs that I think it's much clearer when we see these things. But the Canadian, I guess, market is looking at the use of cannabis-based medicines for all animals now, and in dogs in particular. But in the US, the focus has been much more on canine medicine.
Oh, right? Okay.
On canine medical products. And these canine medical products are further divided into really CBD containing products. So because cannabis is still federally illegal in the US, the only avenue, or the main avenue, that vets have taken to understand what's happening is mainly through the use of CBD containing products. Again, primarily because THC is not a great thing to give to animals. Dogs especially. Dogs tolerate very little amounts of THC. It doesn't make them very happy, despite you thinking that they're like, oh, look at the cute dog, he's all stoned.
So like those dudes that would like blow their bong hits in their pit bulls' faces back in Surrey, like they shouldn't have been doing that.
Likely not.
Okay.
And again,
they're like, oh, yo, the dog likes it, man, bro. I'm like,
I'm not gonna say we've all done that, but you learn,
Doctor.
and that's the most important thing, is that. But anyway.
You're listening to the Cannabis Science Podcast.
So in the US, there's been a lot of exploration and sort of education in the space, especially where cannabis products are legal, to look at the use of CBD containing products, right? Again, THC does have a use in very minute quantities, even in humans, when paired with CBD, but CBD seems to be one of these things that, there's been this explosion, obviously, in use of CBD containing products. So let's look at CBD for dogs. And this is a much larger study and much more in depth as to like what was discussed and investigated. And it seems like a lot of, especially in the US, there's a lot more, I'm not gonna say a lot more knowledge overall, but there seems to be a lot more awareness of cannabis containing products for veterinary use in the US. Maybe it's just because there was a larger sample size, or maybe just because it's like a different educational establishment or system or infrastructure. I don't know. But it seems like both veterinary students and veterinarians that have graduated, that are practicing, are very familiar with different cannabis products, even those containing THC, for the use in dogs. Now, they also are well aware, which is very important, because they've seen this happen, the toxic effects of cannabis in dogs.
Oh.
It's more common than you think, right? Again, a small amount of what we would think is just a small amount of cannabis could really affect our canine friends. So just be aware of that. Now, most veterinarians generally feel comfortable, actually, like about 62% feel comfortable discussing the use of CBD with their colleagues for canine use, but only about 45% feel comfortable discussing it with their clients.
Oh, okay. So it's a bit taboo still, a little bit.
It's a little bit still taboo, I think. And again, you may or may not have an open mind regarding that. But I think most of us, and I'll include myself in that, will open their minds when they see their animal suffering. Right? You don't, the worst thing you can see, you hate to see, you hate to suffer, obviously, but when you see your buddy who's like defenseless, not feeling good, and like I can identify that because our dog recently passed away, and
R.I.P.
I considered trying to give him CBD to see if it would help at all.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else to do. right? He was really near the end, when not feeling great at all. So I was like, you know what? I'll try to give him some CBD. He did not want it.
No?
He did not want that.
He was more conservative, though.
He's very
He was a more
conservative dog. I'm an old school dog. We didn't do that
What
back
are
in
you
my
trying to do?
day.
exactly. So that's they understand like that there is definitely more, open minds that are coming up more lately, but still it's kind of a little bit taboo. Now, this seems to be the case both in states where cannabis is legalized and states where it isn't. So, despite CBD being, again, this generally innocuous compound, it seems to be a little bit, they're holding back on that, but it's being explored actively. Now, the most frequently discussed potential treatment for, CBD with dogs is first pain management,
Okay.
then anxiety, and then seizures. It seems that same as humans, CBD helps dogs with seizures
Wow.
for some interesting unknown mechanism. It's still really unknown why this works in this way, but similar to humans, there's anti-epileptic activity from CBD. Now, one interesting thing is that recent veterinary grads were less likely to recommend cannabis products and those containing CBD than, well-established vets. Maybe that's because
What?
they're more established and they don't really care so much. I don't know, but it's interesting, right?
You'd think the new ones would be like, yo, get that puppy some CBD. It needs to chill out.
Exactly. And how do you think they're giving these products to their animals?
Well,
Rolling a big joint and giving to them?
I've used tinctures actually with my
Edibles?
puppy actually.
Yeah. Mainly like the main way, actually the primary way that a lot of vets have had experience giving this to their animals is primarily through oils and extracts, but then to lesser extent, biscuits and edibles.
I can get a cute little doggy biscuit that'll get.
Oh
wow, that's so cute.
You know what's funny? I'm not sure if it's a taste of them, but I've tried to give, because I've been giving different cannabis products like to test in my lab and to just see, and I've tried giving some of these biscuits to my two dogs, and they don't want to eat them. No, they don't want them.
They both conservative.
It needs more. It needs more bits of meat in it. Both conservative.
And one of them eats vegetables, like in fruits and vegetables. He eats everything. I'm
Because
so
he's a
surprised.
kind of healthy
Sounds
dog,
surprised.
vegetarian. He
I
likes
just eat
to
bananas
run.
actually.
So where what would be the cases where vets would recommend CBD? So let's look at that.
Tell me.
Look at this a little bit. So like I mentioned before, vets suggest the use of CBD or have really pushed for the use of CBD containing products to help with analgesia or pain, reducing pain, chronic and acute. That means that it seems like for the most helpful use of these CBD products that vets document is for chronic pain. About 34% have documented it or reported it as being helpful, and about 56% somewhat helpful.
Okay.
Right. So it's interesting, right? That's followed by acute pain with 23% saying helpful and about 60% saying somewhat helpful.
Okay.
And those of you that have given like different analgesics or different like pain blocking drugs for their pooch know that whatever they've been giving like very weak things. So maybe the dogs really do react to less intense compounds.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is, it seems like 75% of vets have deemed helpful CBD for reduction of anxiety and seizure frequency and severity.
Wow.
So that's interesting. A very high percentage, right, that have seen this. And again, this has kind of helped push these recent clinical trials that are being done now for both seizures and pain management in dogs.
Wow.
So that's being done right now to investigate whether or not there's really something there. There could very well be something there. Now, the side effects. What are the side effects? What do you think are the side effects from CBD containing products in dogs?
They might get really lethargic. I don't know.
Sedation
Is that possible?
is definitely the most commonly
Okay.
reported side effect. What's the second most commonly reported side effect? You're gonna love this one.
Do they get the runs? They get diarrhea or something? Does it mess
No.
with their digestion?
No, it's
They
not
want
that.
to eat more.
Polyphagia. Yes.
What's polyphagia?
Extreme hunger.
Oh wait! Oh no! They get the munchies.
They get the munchies.
Oh man, that's wild.
So it's funny because yeah, like I can imagine the dog is just like, we share so many things with dogs. It's just hilarious. But it seemed overall though that vets really do believe that, I mean, the overwhelmingly vets believe that CBD containing products are beneficial to dogs, at least to
Wow.
dogs. Yes. And if not beneficial, harmless, or not harmless, but don't have serious effects on the dogs. They're well tolerated. They're, if anything, it's like they're not going to do anything, or at worst, you'll see mainly sedation or just the munchies. But most of these vets do believe that CBD should not, and cannabis more, even cannabis should definitely not remain as a Schedule 1 drug. That there's definitely medical uses for it. We know this, of course, preaching to the choir once again, but that for especially, in the case of vets and animals, in dogs, there is definitely a use for them to use, for these products, right? So if we discard cannabis, the whole cannabis plant, or a high THC containing product for for pooches or for animals in general, it seems like likely a very low THC ratio to very high CBD, or just a CBD containing product similar to what happens in humans. It seems like it would be also beneficial for dogs.
Wow.
So that is just the first part of this,
Man, you got a lot of facts.
I mean, I really do research this stuff. I go as deep as I can, within the time limits that I have.
You're like a scientist or something.
I'm like some sort of scientist.
That's wild.
And so I really like to investigate this, and not just for the listener. I like to investigate this for myself, because I love learning, and I think there's a lot of things that I am still discovering, and I am really learning so much through the show.
Me too, actually.
Me too.
Wow.
I'm glad you guys
We're all
are
learning.
Hey, learning.
Hopefully you are too.
Hopefully you at home are too. And again, if you have any questions or anything that really interests you, please DM me at CannasciencePod. That's one word. Or you can send me an email at ricardo@cannabisconciencia.org, or go to my site and put a post. Any one of those things, please send me your questions
and what
your
I
show
should
ideas.
do if I want to listen more Kemet music.
Go to soundcloud.com/paperwave.
Nice. I like kind of stuff. It's like I like, what is it? What do you call it? Minimalist?
I would say it's the backbone of house and techno, but weird technology is involved.
I like when weird technology is involved.
Weird technology.
Just see the stuff he brings, and I'm like, holy crap! What is that?
That makes sound. What the heck?
Yeah. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next time at the Cannabis Science Podcast. Find us wherever you find your great science podcasts, or just general podcasts are found, and tune in to our show on CannabisCoopRadio.org.
CannabisRadio.org.
Woo!